What's going on, everybody? This is Fry. So Ninja Kiwi just dropped a bombshell saying that there will be an upcoming alpha that is going to be open to the public, so everyone's going to be able to join, not just a few creators like they did the first time. The good news is you're not going to have to wait until September 30th, which is their estimated, time that they're trying to actually release the game. We will be able to play in another alpha before then. It's hopefully going to be sooner than later, and the good news is they also announced that they are going to be including deck building in the upcoming alpha. It was the main thing that was missing from the first one. We're going to be able to actually build our own decks, which is going to be really, really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to play with you guys. They also said that they are going to be releasing twice as many cards in the next alpha as were in the first one. So in the first alpha, we had 35 cards. This next one will have 70 cards, which is twice as much, and it'll be half of the cards that they plan on releasing when the game is officially released, which will be a set of 140 cards. All of this is coming from a recent Reddit post where Ninja Kiwi did an Ask Me Everything. It was so big that they actually had to split the AMA into two separate Reddit posts. That's how much content they dropped. I'm gonna break it all down for you guys. They had some leaks of which cards we should be expecting when they actually release the game. They also talked about the future plans for the game and also covered some monetization. I know that's a question that a lot of you have. How free to play will Bloons Card Storms actually be? So let's just get right into it, and we're just gonna start first with their reaction to the first alpha that happened a couple weeks ago. And someone asked, what was the most important thing y'all learned from the first look test? And Ninja Kiwi answered, a bit corny, but that our community is awesome. We've been absolutely blown away by the reception the game has gotten, and the whole team is feeling super energized and excited. So really good to hear that. I'm glad as a YouTube creator that has basically pivoted my main channel to Bloons Card Storm that I was able to at least be a small part of that, hyping up the game and, getting the community excited as well as the devs. They also said that a key discovery that they discovered from the data from the first alpha was the fact that the player that goes first was winning around 60% of the time. You definitely don't want that happening. You want it to be really even 50-50. They said that they're going to be implementing advantage to the player that goes second, that they're actually going to be starting with an extra gold. So the first turn, both players gain 2 gold, but if you go second, you're going to start with an additional gold that turn, and that will give you a little bit of extra resources to make up for the disadvantage you have from going second. They also have had, even in the first alpha, a little bit of an advantage to who goes second. The fact that the card storm, the automatic balloons every 3 turns go automatically onto both sides of the field, actually happens first for the player who went second, but apparently that again was not enough to make it equal, so they will be again giving a little bit of gold to the second player, which is definitely something that a lot of other games have had success with implementing. Like Hearthstone had the coin to give the player who goes second a equalizer, so they're not at a disadvantage. They also said that they are very happy with the core game mechanics and sort of the flow of a game of Bloons Card Storm, and then they're not going to be changing anything there significantly, just going to be tweaking a few things before launch. Ninja Kiwi also all but confirmed that Banana Farm will in fact be nerfed. This was unanimously the most oppressive card in the first alpha, and hopefully Banana Farm will not be giving the player who gets it too much of an advantage. They also said they will be adding other economy cards to the game other than just Banana Farm and Cash Drop, which were the 2 that we saw. They also reacted to Black Bloom. This is something I actually covered in the video of which cards need to be changed from the alpha. Black Bloom's ability of On Destroyed, in fact, should be drawing you a card when it leaks, meaning when it hits the opponent's face. That was just a bug that Black Bloom was not drawing a card when it hit face, and now it certainly will. They also commented on the lack of keywords in the original alpha. They're going to be adding keywords to cards. Particularly, they talked about Defender, which is the keyword of Tack Shooter, which is the fact that it can attack while the balloons on the other side of the field are incoming. So they said there's going to be other Defender cards as well, other than just Tack Shooter. So that's going to be a really good way to defend against really aggressive cards like Pink Balloon. They also alluded to a new card called Dark Champion that somehow is going to be able to work together with your Defender and Tack Shooter cards cards, which are going to prevent pink balloons from hitting your face. Ninja Kiwi then clarified some of the core mechanics of the actual gameplay. They said that when you build decks in the game, there's going to be 40 cards per deck, and you can run a maximum of 3 copies of each, except for some unique cards that will only have 1 copy. This is something I really like to hear. I feel like 3 cards is a really good balance. You don't want there to be too many copies of cards, especially expensive cards in the deck, because then really the game just becomes pay to win. You also don't want there to be too few cards. Like in Hearthstone, you were only able to have 2 copies of each card in the deck, and I felt like that really just sort of limited your deck making. I think 3 is a happy medium. It's also nice to hear that there's only going to be 1 copy of the most expensive cards in the game, again, to combat free to play and some decks just being overpowered because they are full of legendaries. So I'm really happy to hear about the 1 card limit for the most expensive cards. They also said that there is going to be a big pool of cards that can be included in any deck with any hero, and then there's going to be hero specific cards. So it will be like a card like we saw Firestorm in the pre-alpha, and that is a card that only Gwen will be able to use. Each hero is going to have their own little set of hero specific cards. This is a really good way to implement more cards into a game, and also being able to keep the game balanced, because you won't have to worry about the synergy between hero specific cards with a different hero's abilities. Some heroes' abilities combined with certain cards are going to be too OP, so you can just take any card like that and just assign it to a different hero. It's a nice way to sort of create uniqueness in the deck, balance the game, but also be able to predict what strong cards your opponent is going to be able to play by seeing which hero they are playing. You don't have to play around everything in the game. You'll only have to play around the base cards that can be used by any hero, and then those hero specific cards. They also clarified about gold caps. Gold does stack from turn to turn in Bloons Card Storm, and you are only able to have a maximum of 20 gold stack total. So if you go over 20 gold, the rest of the gold is just going to disappear. You can also gain 10 maximum gold per turn. You're obviously gaining, again, more gold every single turn until you gain 10, and that is going to be the cap. They even said that there is going to be an 18 cost card that you're only going to be able to play by saving your gold from turn to turn, so I'm really excited to see that. When asked about selective discarding, which means voluntarily discarding a card in your hand in order to make room to draw more, they said they really did not want to add selective discarding. They like the fact that there is pressure when you have a hand that's full of cards, 8 cards being the maximum, to play your cards in order to create hand space to draw more. I think this is something that also balances the balloons that have several charges in the game, in order to really make them more balanced. The fact that you're really forced to play them in succession so you can open up hand space, or else you're not going to be able to draw at the beginning of your turn. When talking about the general philosophy for card games, Ninja Kiwi said that they purposely made offense stronger than defense, that the balloons and monkeys of similar cost, the balloons really will be a little bit stronger. It's something that will keep the game going and make sure that games are not going to just be stalemated and taking forever. They also said not to say that we don't want to see epic control versus control matchups either. They do want there to be opportunities for these long control versus control games, but they really in general want the game to move and that games will not be taking too long. They also said that they want to make OTK combos, like big one-turn kills. They want those to be in the game, but they want to also make sure that they're not going to be too oppressive. So that's actually a really good mentality, since OTK decks are really, really fun, but you don't want it to be just absolutely impossible to stop. They said that there's also going to be the possibility of ending a game in a tie, almost like in PvZ Heroes. If your whole deck is discarded, you sort of mill out. So they said there is going to be some possibility of that happening, I guess, if both heroes deck out during the same turn. Anyway, they said that's a possibility, but not very likely. Ninja Kiwi said that they do favor build around cards and counters to specific tactics, like you see previewed with Tack Shooter versus Pink Balloons. I don't really see a problem with the mentality. Obviously, every card game is supposed to have some strong cards and then cards that counter it. You need some decks to counter other decks. That is how card games work. I just really hope they don't go over the top with this, like I discussed in the last update video, of making too many silver bullet cards, of cards that are so overpowered and the only thing that balances them is a card that answers them. I hope every card really is balanced in its own right, and then some decks will actually counter others. I didn't really see a problem with the way they expressed this, though. In terms of future plans, Ninja Kiwi said that their priority at launch is going to be PvP focused. There will be some extensive PvE content they will add to the game. I'll talk about that in a little bit. They also said that there will be a ranking system at launch for competitive play, that you're able to, again, play competitive and gain the ranks and climb already to the top. I'm really excited for that. They also said that they will be releasing new sets multiple times per year, trying to strike a balance of the game not getting stale, but on the other hand, also giving players time to really learn the new meta, learn the new sets as they come out, and for metas to develop before they make the next release of cards. They said eventually they're going to make other game modes other than just classic Bloons Card Storm, and perhaps even a 2v2 mode or a co-op mode, PvE, where you play together with a friend against a boss, but that's not going to be happening on release. That's something that they will maybe do perhaps in future updates. They also said that at launch there is not going to be a tournament mode, but it is also something that they will consider doing. Tournament mode would be where you have a very highly competitive match that you're playing against one player, you're playing like a set, like several games against the same opponent, and you're able to maybe ban certain heroes. Again, that kind of mode would be something not at launch, something in the future, and hopefully we will eventually be able to see even competitive online tournaments. That would be something really amazing both for the competitive community and just to hype up the game, because esports is something that not only serves to the competitive community but also hypes up the game and brings in a lot of new players to the game that actually find games through their esports. They also said that they don't have any plans to improve the AI in the game, and this is something that I personally find very concerning, especially because they do plan on making the PvE content very significant in the game. I just found in the pre-alpha that the AI was just really bad, even making very fundamental mistakes like triple shot, which is able to hit 3 different balloons. Every monkey would always just focus the first balloon, and triple shots, a lot of its value was just gone to waste, since it really should be shooting a balloon that has balloons on the right and the left of it. That was just one of many examples of the real shortcomings of the AI. I don't think that a PvE experience will be very satisfying to play if you're playing against a bot that is just brain dead and really making huge mistakes. I'll probably make a video eventually to address this and maybe play some matches against the AI and try to show you how many mistakes the current AI in the game is making. So let's get into what Ninja Kiwi says we should be expecting at the launch of the game. They say there's going to be 6 different heroes at launch and a total of 140 cards. They said all heroes are going to end up having the same 500 HP, but it is something that maybe they'll consider in the future, making future heroes either more healthy or less healthy. I feel like that's sort of a cheap way of balancing heroes. I know in a lot of fighting games that is how devs manage to balance different characters, making some of them more healthy and less healthy. I'd really like to see the heroes having a consistent health pool so you kind of know how much damage you actually have to do going into a game, and instead balancing the hero powers and hero specific cards in order to balance the different heroes with each other. They said there will be pre-built strategy decks at launch that you're going to be able to use just in case you are not so familiar with the game. There will be pre-built decks for you to start competing with. Besides for more cards at release, there's also going to be more maps with different kinds of abilities. They said they're not going to be including any LOS mechanics like line of sight mechanics in maps, sort of like what they do in the preceding Bloons Tower Defense games. They also said that the 5 monkey limit and 8 balloon limit that is allowed to be on each side of the field should be consistent in every single map. It's another design lever we are keen to explore. However, they did say that there is going to be tower placement mechanics. So for some monkeys, it will make a difference if they are placed on the highest slot in the screen or the second or the third. Even at launch, there will be some monkeys with a mechanic where that will make a difference. They also said that different game modes may eventually have different card storms, but that won't be something that will be included in a map. There isn't going to be a map with a special power of speeding up the way the card storm worked. They really wanted the card storm to be something that players are very familiar with and is very reliable, and I think that's actually a really good mindset, considering that the card storm itself is pretty confusing to begin with. Ninja Kiwi also said they will be making private matches that you will be able to play with friends on your friends list. They want to include this at launch. If not, it'll be happening in one of the early updates of the game. They also said that the heroes are going to have emotes and pets. There's going to be achievements that you can unlock from doing specific feats in the game. I think that could be something very fun where there's an achievement of doing 2,000 damage all in one turn. I think that would be a really fun thing to be added to the game. They also said there's going to be more sound effects, which honestly was something missing in the pre-alpha. They also said there's going to be a speeding up of the animations. A lot of the animations, as we saw in the pre-alpha, were a little slow. They're going to be speeding that up, adding sound effects, and really making the game flow better and be more immersive. Ninja Kiwi said their general mindset is not to include every single card from the past games in the franchise, just to focus on the ones that will fit in a card game. They also said there almost certainly will be monkeys that delay the Bloons timer. I think this would be a really good ability for a monkey like Glue Gun Monkey, which traditionally in the tower defense game slowed down balloons, so here slowing down their timer, that would just be a really good fit. They said as of now there's not going to be any tower upgrades, which would be a bigger monkey you have to play by placing it on top of a smaller monkey. They said they might consider this for future sets though. When asked, will there be any cards that involve sacrificing your monkeys, they ominously replied, I mean, Sun Temple demands a sacrifice, right? That's a mechanic that's very popular in BTD6, something to look forward to in the game. They said there will be tier 5 monkeys, but they'll try to add them to the game without being too overpowered. They also gave a little sneak peek to this card, the Prince of Darkness, as you can see. This is a monkey that does not manually attack balloons. Instead, it is a little bit more balloon-based. It actually summons an undead mob when you play it. It also heals your balloons every single turn. So a little sneak peek for you guys there. They also addressed an issue that a lot of people had with the pre-alpha, and they said there will be more cards that can remove monkeys from the field, or at least slow them down. You can see here some examples of Stunned, also Bedtime, which will remove any small monkey from the board. You also see here Super Monkey Fan Club, which will increase the attack power of all your dart shooters. Cool stuff. Cards are gonna have tribes or classes, sort of like in PvZ Heroes where there's Mushroom and Leafy and Professional. They said the tribes are going to be primary, military for monkeys, and then basic, advanced, and large for balloons. That'll be a fun way of them making some synergy between the tribes, and that would really add something to deck building. Balloons are going to have a greater variety of abilities than we saw in the pre-alpha. They said there's going to be Miracle Grow Balloon, Healing Balloon, Nested Green Balloon, and Toxic Balloon. All of them are going to be having unique abilities, including some passive abilities. They also said there will be cards that are burn cards, meaning they directly damage the opponent's health. I think it's good for there to be burn cards in a game. It really makes for some fun strategies. I really just want to give a warning to Ninja Kiwi. Burn can end up being the most oppressive strategy and really make the game not feel interactive, more feel like you're just playing solitaire and racing against your opponent to get your win conditions. There even was a meta like this in Hearthstone with the card Fireball that does 6 damage directly to your opponent's face, and it really was just a race to see who can get as many fireballs as possible, and the game really felt like solitaire. And they also said there's going to be card generation or conjuring, cards that will be creating other cards that you normally can't run in your deck. Hopefully we'll be able to see some random abilities as well, cards that can conjure one of many cards and really add some much needed RNG to the game for some fun strategies. Now let's get into a subject that a lot of people are nervous about, and that's monetization. Obviously there is this big balance when you have a free-to-play card game that you want the game to be free to play, but they also somehow have to make money off of it. When it came to the main monetization of the game, Ninja Kiwi says there's only going to be some card packs, but the main progression of gaining cards is going to be through a PvE grinding system. You're going to be playing matches against a bot, and through that you're going to gain in-game currency that you can use directly to craft the cards you want. There's going to be tokens, and the tokens, instead of being based on rarity, that some of them can craft commons and some can craft uncommons and rares and legendaries, instead the tokens are going to be based on tribes like the ones I mentioned above. So there's going to be basic tokens and military tokens and large balloon tokens, and those tokens are going to be used for their specific tribes, and the more rare a card is, the more tokens it will require to craft. They said no card cards are going to be locked behind a paywall, meaning eventually if you grind the game enough, you will be able to get every single card in the game, although there could be some alternate art cards that could be unlocked only through paying, but everything strategically in the game will be available to unlock through grinding. They did say too that there is going to be alternate skins of heroes, meaning some heroes are going to be sharing their hero specific cards with another hero, which is just a reskin, and the difference will be the two heroes will just have different Bloontonium powers. I think this is a really cool way to allow two different heroes to sort of use the same specific card pool. It adds some more variety into the game. It'll also allow Ninja Kiwi to add more heroes to the game, since they really just, in terms of the graphics, need to reskin one of the original heroes. It'll just make it easier and cheaper on their side. They were asked what kind of actions will be taken to ensure the game doesn't die after release, and to make sure it has staying power. And Ninja Kiwi answered, staying power is primarily about player fun, progress, the sense of developing skill, and the ability to play with friends. So we'll be constantly working towards those goals. The other piece is revenue, which comes from players feeling that they are getting great fun and value from their time. Revenue is a key to building future updates, but we'll always be focused on the fun first and keep in touch with the community about value. I mean, as someone who's been playing PvZ Heroes for the last 8 years, this attitude is super refreshing. I'm really happy to be playing a game with a dev team that is not separate from the money making and the corporate team like EA, and they're definitely displaying some really good attitudes of really focusing on fun first, trying to make some money from the game, but really keeping an eye on the community and making sure that the monetization methods are not turning people off from the game. More about monetization, they said they will eventually add different card backs and pets for your heroes. It's really nice whenever a card game is making money off of cosmetics rather than the actual cards. It just prevents the game from becoming too pay to win. They also said when it comes to single player content, we have big plans for adventures. These adventures will be paid content and specifically crafted experiences. They said that these are going to be single player content that are focused on storytelling and that it will be paid. I think this too is a good idea in terms of generating monetization from a card game. Not only will it prevent the PvP aspects of the game from becoming pay to win, but when it comes to PvE that you're playing against the computer, you can really implement a lot of crazy and wacky, unbalanced stuff that you really wouldn't be able to include in the PvP section of the game. This would be a way to make the single player campaigns a much more fun experience, and I really hope that they can do this successfully. They also said there will be some kind of ranked rewards. There has to be some kind of reward for climbing the ladder and going up in ranked. They said exactly what the rewards will be. They don't have this nailed down at this time. Just to end off on a couple of fun notes, when asked what is the lore of Bloons Card Storm, how come these monkeys are fighting against each other, they said what they're going with is that Bloons Card Storm is a training grounds for monkeys, and that's why they're fighting against each other in order to prepare them for the real battles like in Bloons Tower Defense. Also, when asked what is the most fun moment they've had in the game, they said when they were down all the way to 5 health and they top decked that juicy, spicy pink balloon for the win. Anyway guys, that's all for now. I'm really excited to play Bloons Card Storm with you guys in the upcoming alpha. I will definitely let you know when that comes out. If you want to keep up with more Bloons Card Storm news, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace, this is Fry.